Welcome to the 2024 Winter Classic Student Cluster Competition Studio Update Show. Now, here are your hosts, Dan Olds and Addison Snell.
Hello, Dan Olds here, and this is the first mentor interview of the 2024 Winter Classic Invitational Student Cluster Competition, and we're talking with our pals from HPE, who for the past 3 years have been the opening mentoring the HPL LINPAC and HPCG benchmarks, taking kids that in most cases have never even heard of HPC before and teaching them how to run a real world benchmark on a real supercomputer. Let's bring them in. How y'all doing today?
Doing well. How are you?
Good. Let's start with you, Zach. You want to introduce your team?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Zach Shearhart. I'm at HPE for little over almost 3 years now. And I've been helping Dan for the past 2 with the winter.
That's the third time.
This is the third time. So
yeah.
So I want to introduce. So we have a few new faces here from who've graciously been able to volunteer their time to kind of help with this. So I really appreciate all their help. So John Rogers, and maybe we'll introduce kind of from there. So John Rogers, do you want to just kind of briefly introduce yourself?
Yeah, please.
Primary background is as a computational scientist, a little over a decade of experience working with high performance systems, and have been with HPE for a little over 2 years at this point.
Great.
And we have Gordon Bates.
Hello. I am pretty new to HPE. I've been here for 2 years now. My educational background is in science, technology, math, and engineering. And what I do at HPE is I'm a technical trainer. I train people on our administration side of the high performance computing systems that we have.
Very good. And that comes in handy when you've got a bunch of new students who haven't done this before.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks, Gordon. And then we have Dennis Molly.
Yes, hi. I have a computer engineering technology background with computer science and computer information systems. I'm pretty good at hardware, but I know a lot of software. And I've been with HPE/Cray for a little over 10 years now, and absolutely love what I do with computers and technology and cutting edge stuff, and helping new people to learn it and come up to speed on it.
Great.
Thanks, Dennis. And then Ivan Rodriguez.
Hey, everyone. I'm Ivan. My background is in computer science and mathematics. I started with HPE in 2019 as part of the OneView server infrastructure team, but when I graduated in 2021, I moved over to HPC.
Very good. What was your degree in?
I have a degree in computer science and another in mathematics.
Very good. So we got them through it. You got them through it. I didn't do anything other than sign them up and throw them into the war. So it seemed like some teams got a pretty quick start. Anyone in particular stand out?
Yeah, I would say, that was a parallel. The parallel team. They had
Fayetteville State.
That's right, Fayetteville.
Yeah.
They were, I think, within the first hour we got the test in for HPL, and then within, it was not even a whole day. When we started, and they had already gotten their test run for HPCG. They were very quick to get this done.
Very good.
I would say based on the logins, it looked like the para team and even the maybe
that's Fayetteville is also that's the parallel pathfinders. Yes.
Yeah. I would say people that were getting logged in early, like on January 21st, were definitely had a head start on the rest of the folks. And you could also see it in their cumulative time and the number of jobs that they ran, where they kept trying different things until they got something that worked and then built on that.
Very good. The one thing that I noticed that stood out a little bit to me this year, not much. Well, let me go back. There were a lot of views of the training material because I can track that, and I was logging in the high 30s, low 40s. But that's not necessarily indicative because some of them will watch those as groups, and then some will go back and watch snippets of them again. So that was good, and we gave them early access to that. But I didn't see an awful lot of traffic on the Slack channel.
I would say it is a little bit more typical. We did see some traffic come in, but it was a little bit later. So looking at it from previous years, we had a lot of Slack traffic. I would say the first year, we're still working through figuring out some of the things. I believe we provided a fairly comprehensive FAQ, and I would say a lot of people did reference that to get them over any kind of commonly seen issues.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say it was even considering like last year's, it was a little low on the traffic, but it did pick up near the end. When I think when people were really trying to start to get things going.
And one very notable thing we saw last year was a pattern that I think that the students, and they kind of confirmed this when I talked to them, that they figured, HPCG, it's a 30-minute run. We'll leave that till the last 45 minutes of the day, and ran into problems. And I don't think we really saw that this year. Because it's kind of mostly the same teams that weren't able to complete LINPACK also weren't able to complete HPCG.
I would say that. Does anyone want to comment on that?
Yeah,
further?
Please.
Yeah,
jump in.
I mean, just kind of looking at the actual. The runs that happened, just kind of basing it off of that, you start to see groups like Lobos and the Fayetteville. Oh, actually, no, I would say Lobos and Texas Tech. They did front load a lot of their work. But if you look at the Fayetteville, they actually have a pretty even number of runs between the HPL and HPCG. So, I would say there was still a skew on running the HPL jobs first. And I believe we did see more of those kind of run in and kind of, people start, really focus on those. And then they kind of went on to HPCG, but not as much of a skew as there was last year. I'd say, I think we did try to emphasize, please get started on HPCG sooner than later.
Why do we think that they almost universally go after LINPACK first? Any thoughts?
Maybe it's because it's first in the list of what we give them. It seems in the material, here's HPL and here's HPCG. And it's like, oh, well, I'll do HPL first. So
page order in the book, basically.
Yeah, I would have to say, I think I agree with them starting with HPL. It's a little easier to get to and get a result out of it in a shorter time. And, you get an early success. No matter what numbers you achieve, you get a success and a positive reinforcement in running it, and then you build your confidence as you tune it. But then we should encourage them to spread their wings earlier and start on HPCG and work on them both.
Yeah, that's a good point. Did you see, I don't know if you guys would see this, but last year's competition, there were a couple of teams that sort of split their efforts and worked on them in parallel, which I think is a pretty good strategy.
Well, based on the number of logins that I seem to remember seeing, there were definitely teams that had more than one session going at the same time. And they were more than one person was editing and logging in and maybe, doing things at the same time. I think that's an excellent strategy.
Yeah.
With multiple logins and multiple people trying multiple things at the same time. There is a limitation in the queue of how many, or the partitions of how many simultaneous jobs you can submit. But I'd say it looked like you could have both an HPL and an HPC job at the same time. So, no?
No.
Unfortunately, it was just one per account.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So they had to either be working on HPL or HPCG, not both at the same time.
That's correct. You could potentially stack executions to do some sort of parameter study, but you can only have one executing at a single time.
Well, but could you have an HPL and an HPCG at the same time?
No, unfortunately not. It wasn't tied to a partition. It was tied purely to account.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
What were the rough terms? What did an average Linpack run take in terms of wall clock time?
That's a good question that I don't have the answer to. That would be kind of baked into the final results, wouldn't it?
It depends on what size memory space they were using. The more memory you're using, the better result you're going to get, but it also is going to take more time to complete the job.
I have that. I should have that information. I just have to pull it up.
Okay.
But so looking at HPL, I don't have the numbers for HPCG off.
Well, that was basically a 30-minute run, wasn't it? That was the minimum.
Yes, it was. Yeah, it was a 30. Well, everything was limited to 45 minutes, but that was the high end. I mean, you can kind of manipulate it to kind of go down from there. But yeah, the runs were limited to 45 minutes.
Okay. I thought that you had to have a 30-minute HPCG in order to be valid.
Oh, it was a minimum memory requirement.
Oh, minimum memory. Right. Okay. Because someone figured a way around that first time we did this. If I remember right, on HPCG, and I want to say that was Tennessee State University, who jumped out to a lead based on that.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Because Zach calls me up on Sunday and says, "We got a problem."
That was the first year. We were still working through some things, and we exceeded the theoretical limit of memory bandwidth with HPCG, and that was everything was stored in cache. That was it, and they stored it all in cache. So then you write a rule to stop that, and but yeah, I just wanted to give the audience an idea of how long like the HPL would take. So it looks like I'm looking at the results, and the wall clock time averaged about 15 minutes.
Okay.
For the final results. So they were as small as let's see, they're as small as about 4 minutes for their final results, and as high as about 25 minutes.
Okay, that's good to know. So that gives us an idea of how much wait time they had in between getting results and then changing parameters again and running it through. Any interesting things that anybody tried that you saw on your side?
I mean, so I did talk to, John Barron was the HPL expert, and he wasn't able to make it today, but he did get a little bit. So he said the kind of the most popular choices for NB, which is kind of the size of the matrix, the matrix, whatever you want to say, is 160 and 192. So they were either like 16 by 16 or 8 by 32 kind of sizes. But there was, there were a few teams that didn't quite optimize to use all of the cores for a particular node. So, there were, I believe, one or two teams that used something that did that. So like a 14 by 18. But yeah, ultimately it's, I think people really kind of left it to MPI to run all of their work. There wasn't a lot of kind of using OpenMP, so that was something that some teams used in the past to increase their performance, by using a combination of, say, OpenMP, which is more node driven. It has a little bit more kind of optimization there, and MPI for off node communication. And so, that may be why some of the efficiencies were a little bit different than previous years.
And the efficiencies are pretty good for the top teams. I mean, the teams that completed, vast majority of them were greater than 70%, running up to 78%.
Yeah, absolutely. For someone who just got onto the machine for the first time, and for the most part have not been on a big supercomputer. That's astounding in my mind that they're able to achieve that goal so quickly, when it takes some people their whole career to get really high scores and really focus in on those that optimization.
Well, that's got to be a testament to your training and support too. I mean, that you put out 5 hours of training plus some question and answer sessions, and that was very good. I'm looking at the wall clock myself. We're running out of time. I did want to go around the horn with you all, and just ask sort of a closing question. What advice would you give these students for the rest of the competition? They have 4 essentially unknown compute tasks ahead of them from 4 other mentors. Can you think of any sort of good general or specific advice for them? And let's start with you, Dennis.
Ooh.
Yeah, surprise! You get the question right off the bat, the open-ended question.
Yeah. Let's see. Search engines are helpful. Stuff with peer-reviewed papers is helpful. But collaborate. To the extent that you're allowed, ask questions of other teams. Definitely ask questions of your mentors. And all questions are valid.
We
all started, way back with not having been on a computer, to being on a computer, to being on supercomputers. And there's a lot going on, but it's really not that hard. You just have to sort of get your mind around it. Get success, at a smaller scale, 1, 2, 3 machines, 1, 2, 3 processes, and then scale it up. Just and keep trying. Try many little things before you do like a really big 30-minute run that's going to cost you a lot of time.
Good stuff. Very good. Ivan, how about you? Thoughts, advice, tips, tricks?
I was going to say what Dennis said.
Virtually everything that Dennis said.
Start on a single node.
That's good. That's good specific advice. Single node first.
And specifically as someone who works on the OpenMP runtime, that kind of implies working on OpenMP before MPI, right? Something else I would strongly urge, and it's something I do at my job every day, is use different compilers with the same code. You'd be surprised how much better, say, GNU is at Cray for X feature, or vice versa. Cray is much better than GNU or LVM for this particular feature. It may also be the case that a particular feature is only functionally implemented and hasn't gotten the performance tweaks that some of the more popular features have used. So I would say compare your results to the exact same code across different compilers, and it may not be your fault that a certain code is not running the way that you expect it to.
Those are good tips. Now, Gordon, your task is to try and come up with something unique from those, but that's hard. They've covered a lot of ground. What do you think?
Well, this was actually my first experience with any kind of workload manager stuff. And just from watching the traffic in the channels, both the external and the internal admin channels, I could say it's probably a good idea to become buddies with your Slurm administrator. And see what what they might be able to do for you in terms of like solving your account problems. And I saw a lot of stuff going on with the Slurm accounts that was able to get fixed pretty quickly. So I think that would be my advice, about the only advice I could give.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. John.
Just to reiterate how important it is, start small. It allows you to iterate quickly and do lots of testing. And when you're working on testing, try to figure out if there's any knobs or slides. And if you can, do a parameter study. Take large strides to get a feel for how the application behaves based off those parameters. And then once you have a good idea of what region to target, focus in on individual small increment parameters. Just try to run as many trials as you can before you try to scale it.
That is a good idea. Would you also advise profiling?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think that's key. And there's free ones out there. That I think that would really help.
Yeah.
Zach, what do you think? You've been through 3 of these now.
I would just suggest, but besides Fayetteville, they got on it early. The sooner you get on it, the better. So I would just recommend really starting early. That I think for any of the future activities, getting early on and kind of just setting up your environment, making sure everything's working. And because sometimes things just don't work, or not set up correctly. And, you need to have those conversations earlier than later.
And that kind of dovetails with one of my suggestions that I think lines up well with Dennis and Ivan is, get a result, get something sort of in the bank. You can always go back and improve upon it, but get it running and get something in that's accepted. And then that way, you're not putting it off till the last minute. You have some breathing space mentally to be able to find all those knobs and switches and sliders and test those out. Does that make sense to the professionals?
I would agree. Yes.
Well, I cannot thank HPE and you folks individually enough. Pulled it off again, and you gave us a great start. And can't express the gratitude that we have and that the students have. And by the way, you might be buttonholed by some students at a future event or something. We have a fair number working in HPC now at some of the big national labs, in industry, et cetera. So the legend will go on. And next up for you, your next meeting, same here, but next up for the students, this is a week of rest and refresh and recharge their batteries. Then they have NASA Ames. And they don't know what's coming from that. Going to be interesting. Always is.
Should be fun.
Yes. So stay tuned. We will keep doing these updates and keep everybody in the loop. And thank you again, HPE, Zach, everybody. And we'll talk to you later. Thank you for watching this episode of the 2024 Winter Classic Invitational Studio Update Show. For all the latest news on the competition, check out our official media partner, HPC Wire. We're also on social media at the handles above. Give us a follow. We'd love it. And please visit our website at www.winterclassicinvitational.com. Thank you to all the student teams, mentor organizations, and sponsors for making this competition possible. Stay tuned for more.